You're listening to the Savannah Institute's Pioneer Agroforestry Farm Tour Series. This audio recording features Dan Shepard of Shepard Farms in Central Missouri and was produced by Man Alone Media with support from the North Central SARE program. Be sure to check out the Pioneer Agroforestry Farm Tour video series at savannahinstitute.org.
Yeah, I'm Dan Shepard, owner of Shepard Farms. We're located in Clifton Hill, Missouri, which is in North Central Missouri, and we raise pecans. Okay, well, on Shepard Farms, we're a kind of multifaceted farm. Right now we raise corn, soybeans, wheat, and especially pecans. We run about 300 acres of pecan orchards and about 3,000 acres of row crop on the farm.
Great. Would you call this agroforestry?
Yes, it is. It is agroforestry. We started years ago. And we just called it farming between the pecan trees, and now they call it agroforestry. But yeah, this little orchard here, we agroforestry it. We cut hay off of it between the trees. Our other orchards, our more mature stuff, have matured, so they're kind of out of that program, and we just mow the grass and harvest the pecans off of. So that's a mature part. We have about 100 acres of these immature orchards that we still use agroforestry on. Really, we started this farm in early, like 1969, planted our first pecans like in 71 for an experimental orchard. Down there we grafted about 42 different varieties to see what would work best for us in this part of northern Missouri. And later on in about 1981 we planted the 180-acre orchard, which is our main production orchard that's in production now. And then since then, we planted 3 other new orchards, totaling about 100 acres, and they're just now getting into production. Really, on the farm, we were known for a lot of different things, not only the pecans here, but we were also known for one of the largest buffalo herds this far east to the East Coast years ago. We ran buffalo out here for 42 years, and we're pretty well known about that. Also, our main enterprise came with eastern gamagrass seed, which was one of the native eastern prairie grasses. With that, we became one of the largest seed dealers in the United States as far as eastern gamagrass seeds was, and pretty well developed on how to grow it, sprout it, use it, plant it, stuff, and we did that for about 25 years, I guess. Our customers expect a quality product that we raise here locally and process here locally. And they know they're getting a good quality, fresh tasting, nice pecan instead of something that's old and rancid that's maybe been sitting on the shelf at the grocery store for 6 months. They know they can get a quality product here.
Tell us how you market your products.
We market our products mainly on the on-farm store. We're open 3 months out of the year, October, November, December. My wife handles all that. We also wholesale some out to a few grocery stores and bulk food stores, which has also become a big part. And we do quite a bit of mail order now also.
Nice. So what varieties of pecans do you grow?
Well, the varieties we raise is mainly about 7 or 8 different ones. Most of them are all northern varieties. We also have one of our own that's called the Shepard, which is really a nice nut. We raise Kanza, Pawnees, Loves, Nibliks, Colbys, Whitties, Perukes, Posies, those mainly the older style northern pecans. The Pawnees and the Kanzas are fairly new, so we're just getting started with those real nice. Well, management-wise and stuff, we on our management of our pecan orchards, we keep them pretty well mowed up and keep them like a park. We do some insect and some fungal control on it because we need to raise a crop every year because we do this for a living, and it's pretty important for us to have a quality product to sell and to move out to our customers. Some people ask, why do I do it? I don't know, maybe I'm not smart enough to do anything else. But no, it's an enjoyable thing. The nice thing about pecan orchards and this is that when I go to bed at night, I know where that tree is. When I get up in the morning, it's the same place. It doesn't move on me like livestock does. Very rarely do I ever get sick and they ever get sick and die or lose any. They're a long-term investment. It takes a lot of years to get invested and get them in production, but once they get in production, they'll definitely outlive me. I guess just being out here and having a nice looking orchard, a nice looking farm, and being highly visible on the highway, I guess it means a lot. What would I tell young? Don't stay away. No, really. It's a great life. It's a lot of hours, a lot of odd hours and long hours. A lot of disappointment. You're kind of tied to the weather, whether it be drought or flood or ice storm or frost or whatever. But there's a lot of variables in it. It's probably not for the weak of heart, but it has its ups and downs. But it also very rewarding. Some people kind of ask how we got this started and stuff. My father really came from northern Arkansas, where pecans were very numerous, and he was surprised that when he moved up here that pecans were native up here. And he always wanted to be a farmer, so we ended up buying 20 acres down on the river. And I remember I was about 12 years old or 11, and he brought us out to show us this big 20 acres he had bought, and didn't hardly pay anything for it. It was on the outside of the levee system. It flooded a lot. And I remember crawling up on the levee and looking north out across this farm. I said, "Gee, Pop, you ought to buy this place. You can plant a lot of pecans." And he said, "Well, it is for sale." And he ended up, a couple years later, ended up purchasing this place. And we ended up planting our first pecans. And like I say, now we're up to 300 acres of orchards. And I wish my father was alive now to see it. I think he'd be very proud of it. I own a pecan tree over in Brunswick. We bought a pecan tree.
One tree?
One tree. Recorded in the deeds. Recorded in the courthouse, yeah. Wow. Okay, all our orchards are grafted. What that means is that we know exactly what that tree is going to produce. We've taken a rootstock that was maybe native and then put a variety on, a little stick on it that we know exactly what kind of nut it's going to produce. So we have a whole row or whole block of trees that produce the same nut, the same quality each time. And that really helps us out in our cleaning processes and then also cracking and shelling processes. So we can set the machines just strictly for those size nuts and those thicknesses of shells and whatever. And it works out real well. That way we have a set product of different size nuts instead of a hodgepodge of many different varieties altogether. So we do have a lot of different varieties, but we try and keep them all separate. And grafting lets us do that. Our number one orchard was experimental orchard. It's about 18 acres, I guess. I don't really know. We keep thinning trees out. We never want to really let a pecan tree touch, so our amounts of trees change pretty well every year. Normally on our settings, we run about 20 to 25 trees to the acre. On the bigger orchards, older orchards, it may be clear on down to 16. The young orchards are 27 trees to the acre. Our other main orchard we planted in 81, which is a flag farm. We planted the nuts out there. We set 12,000 flags in 10 days, and that's now known as the flag farm. That's our main orchard. It's in full production. Then we have a couple orchards, one in front of the house. It's about 18 acres also, and it's coming in production now. It had nuts on the past couple of years, and this year still got some nuts on, has nuts on them also, so it's getting in production. We have another 50 acres that came out of a 15-year tree CRP that we took the other trees out and left the pecan trees and getting started on it, and it'll be in production probably another 4 or 5 years. And then we have another orchard on the highway that's probably about 10 years away. It's about 5 years old, and we're getting those trees pretty well all grafted up and ready to go, so we should be in good shape on all these orchards now. They should be all in production within another 5 years or so. Now, some people ask how we harvest and process our pecans. It's really easy when they're ready to fall, which is normally after a hard freeze, and a lot of times normally around the first part of November. We come in with a tractor and has what we call a pecan shaker on the back. It clamps on a tree. It vigorously vibrates the tree, and when the nuts are ready to come down, within a few seconds they're all laying on the ground. Then we come along with the pecan harvesters, and they're kind of like a sweeper sort of system where they flip these pecans up out of the grass and blow the leaves and the grass out of them. Also takes most of the sticks out of them, and then puts them in a hopper. From there, they're loaded into wagons and trailers and brought up to our processing and cleaning shed. From there, they're run through a cleaner that takes the small stuff out, the large stuff out, and maybe if there's any holes or left on them or stick tights are moved out. From there, they're run through a aspirator, which sucks all the light ones off, anything that's too light or maybe not filled. And then from there they go through an eye sorter, which takes a picture of each and every nut and decides on if it's the right color, right size, or right texture. And then they go in a belt and we hand sort. If anything else that happens to miss, we pull those off. From there they go into bins, and from bins we're moved to the other building behind the store where we wash and sanitize them. Then they're dried, and then we run them through our crackers and blowers and stuff and bag them up for resale then. And that's pretty well the fast talk of how you harvest and shell pecans. When we harvest the pecans and come out of the field with them, we bring them into this building, and from here we run them through the cleaners, which takes a lot of the dirt out of them, the holes, sticks, stick tights, small stuff, this, that, and the other. The rest of them goes on up into drying bins, and from there they're run through aspirator, which sucks out any light nuts or anything else. Then from there they go into the sort master, which takes a picture of every pecan as it comes through, and it decides whether it's the right color, the right texture, and if it's not, it blows it out. And then they come down another cart that's a belt, as we call the Lucy belt, which theoretically anything hit and misses, we pick that off. And from there they dump in these plastic bins. And like I say, each one of them hold about 1,000 pounds each. We can they have a little place where we can card them and keep track of what variety it is, when they were harvested, whether they're dry or damp or need to be dried, whatever. From there we can put them into the drying tanks, which we can put a lot of air through them. Within a day or two we can take about 12,000 pounds of pecans and pretty well get them down to where we can store them or go ahead and process them back in the store. In here we also, this time of year, we're of course not running right now. We do have our harvesters and shakers in here. We run 2 harvesters all the time, and I keep a third one back, older one back for spares. If we have any problems, need any parts, we're about 2 or 3 days away from getting parts. So being down for 2 or 3 days in a good harvesting time, we just keep one of the older machines around and keep them up and everything else to work on. We also have our shakers. That's what vibrates the trees, so that when the nuts are ready to come down, they can come down within a few seconds. They're on the ground, so the harvesters can pick them up. So, and this is, we can store the pecans out here clear up to about the middle of winter, and then by the middle of winter we either put them, set them on. Mainly they all will go back into the cold storage, or we'll go ahead and work them on up and process them and then put them in cold storage for next year's sales. So that's one of the nicest things out here. So, like I say, the other cleaning equipment over here is really pretty advanced. It really takes all the labor out of it. What used to take a lot of time and stuff now is pretty well labor free. So, not labor free, but it's a lot less labor than what it used to be. Also, we have our drying tables out here. We store them out here in the summertime, so works out a little better for us. When they come out of the orchard, when we bring the pecans that have been harvested in the wagon and stuff, of course the harvesters pick everything up, anything that's the same size and weight of a pecan, pretty well it picks them up and brings them up here. So we need to clean all the stuff out that aren't pecans. We bring them in here, dump them into the pit, and in the pit they go up into the cleaner, and that's one of the cleaners on the right. What it does is, first thing it does, it takes a lot of the dirt out. It'll fall down, and anything goes in the bottom conveyor belts goes outside into the wagon for trash. Also, if there's any small pieces of pecan or shells or holes and stuff, pecan husks, they'll fall down and go out in the trash. Then everything that's about the same size as the pecan we're looking for will fall down through and auger up, elevate up into the holding bin, where we also have a fan on where you can dry. From there, anything that's oversized and stuff will drop out on the end and going out to the trash. From when they're in that bin, like I say, we can dry them overnight or over the weekend, whatever. It'll bin hold about 12,000 pounds of pecans. From there, we can run them up and put them through our aspirator, which is the gray machine. What it does, we can set that at a certain speed. They vibrate down, and then it has air that sucks off a table. So if there's any light pecans or any light trash and stuff, it will remove all that stuff, and we can adjust that to how much suction we want on those pecans. And then I vibrate down and go into the blue machine, which is Inspection Master. That machine's pretty important. It can do about 5,000, 6,000 pounds of nuts an hour. So at 100 nuts per pound, you can fare pretty quick. That's 60, 70,000 nuts per hour going through there, and it takes a picture of each one of them, and it decides on if it's the right color and the right texture. If it's not, it has a little air jet that will knock it out. So, and then they fall down on what we call the Lucy belt. The Lucy belt is have a couple, 3 people there picking off anything that the inspection master misses, or you know, whatever, any cracked pecans or whatever else, and do the final sort that we do on that. That belt never stops, and from there they're elevated up into the plastic bins, and we use a forklift to take them and move them around. We also are able to tag each bin we're doing different varieties with dates we harvest, whether they're dry or wet, whatever. If they are a little damp, we have a Pecan Dryer right behind us. It's made to blow air up through them. We can do about 10,000 pounds in about 24 to 48 hours. We can dry some fairly damp pecans down where we can start to take them in and process them or store them for the winter. But we like to have dry pecans to store. We don't want to store damp pecans. Out here this time of year, we have our drying tables. We store those out here instead of in the back. And we also have our pecan harvesters in this building for right now. They say when harvest time comes, they'll be out and be on the tractors and be ready to go. Run 2 harvesters, have a 3rd harvester for spares in case we have a breakdown. And then also keep the shakers out here, which vibrate the tree and let all the nuts fall on the ground. So works out pretty slick for us. Like I say, we store out here. This building's not heated, so we can store pecans out here in the wintertime and late fall and winter out here without any problem. So works out great for us. Here's our harvesters. Like I say, they have, we pull those with about a 75 horsepower small cab tractor. They can get around underneath the trees real well. After the shaker shakes the tree, vibrates the tree, and when the nuts are ready to come down, they come down within just a few seconds. Then we come along with the harvesters and pick them up. They have a drum there that has about 500 chicken plucking fingers on it, or a rubber finger that flips the pecans out of the grass, throws them on a conveyor belt. From there, they drop over a fan that's running, which blows the leaves and the grass and stuff out. Then they drop onto another conveyor belt that has fairly large holes that the pecans will fall through, and then the sticks will ride out over the back. From there, they auger and elevate into the hopper, and when the hopper gets about full, which is about 700-800 pounds, then we can pull next to wagons or trailers and dump them in. And then from there, they're brought up here and dumped in the pit. Our shakers, so they clamp onto a tree. We can go over there and quickly explain that real quick.
Sure.
But they're kind of a neat little piece of equipment. They hydraulically open those black plastic jaws, rubber jaws there, and they clamp onto the tree. Then turn the power takeoff on, and there's 2 off-centered weights that spin, and when they spin, it vibrates the tree. It doesn't really shake it, it just vibrates it real fast, and then when the pecan's ready to come down, they just come down within a few seconds, they're done. And then you go to the next tree. Takes about between trees and stuff, I can do about a tree about every 40 seconds if you get pretty good at it. So it works out pretty well. Shake a couple hours, I can shake what the 2 harvesters will pick up in a day's time. So let's say in this building here, we store all our pecans in these plastic bins, and we can set them up here and store them and keep them separate by varieties and that sort of thing. So it works out well for us. We're in our machine shed or equipment storage building. That's where we keep everything in, out of the dry, out of the sun, whatever we're not using it. Works out pretty well. We have some of our pecan equipment in here. We use mainly our mowers and sprayers. We've got the 2 sprayers over here on my right. That one of them we use for the bigger trees. The other one we use for the older one we use for the smaller trees and stuff. It mainly to take care of some insects and fungal diseases and stuff we have with pecans. We also have a bigger tractor here. We use it for mowing. Mainly what we do is we use our smaller tractors on the left, which is a 6-foot mower. We'll mow a 6-7 foot strip right along the edge of the trees, and then we'll come back with this one and take the middles out with a 15-foot, 2 passes with it. Then that we'll take our little lawnmower ZRTs and mow the little strip between the trees. So after we get done, it'll look like a park and stuff. Also, this is one of our harvester tractors. We use those, got 2 of those. Some of the other tractors and stuff we use in here we'll use for the shakers and stuff. It's one of my older tractors. We kind of like it a little better for that. So, wagons and trailers and stuff. We used to haul the pecans up. Some hay equipment we can cut and use between the orchards. Hay baler and rake over on the other side where we can harvest kind of our agroforestry sort of thing. We can harvest the hay between the younger pecan trees now, which we sell for money. So it helps the profit on the farm. Here we are. We're in our storage room or area. Normally by the middle of winter time, any pecans, what we're going to store for next year to work in is we have a big walk-in freezer here. So step into my office if you want to. Didn't have a very good crop last year, so we're kind of low on this. Normally this thing will be clear to the ceiling and clear up. We keep it at 0 in here, and we have our processed pecans, our whole pecans, stuff that we will go ahead and we'll crack these pecans here in the next month or so. The boxes here are ones that have already been processed. We'll put those outside. Yeah, the wind blows in here too. Kind of cold. Let's go. That might be pretty good. So anyway, like I say, we can store about 70,000, 80,000 pounds of whole pecans in this thing. So it averages out our season. We have quite a few, what I want to call commercial customers that want the pecans the 1st October. And most people want pecans then, but really they don't start falling until around the 1st of November. So this gives us a month of sales and storage and get some of our bigger accounts out of the way and get them cracked. And instead of that, while we're harvesting, we be using these pecans. So that works out well for us. I know it's kind of expensive to have it here on the farm, but it's a lot handier to have it here because the closest cold storage place is like in Kansas City, which is 2-3 hour drive away. So it works out better for me to have my own cold storage. Well, this is our sales area where we, after we process the pecans, this is the final option where they go out the door and stuff. And we're open, 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. And normally Saturdays are our biggest days and stuff. We have a lot of people come down. A lot of people from Iowa and Illinois come over and get their pecans and jams and jellies. And we sell chocolate candies and other nuts, mixed nuts, cashews, that sort of stuff in there in the store. So it gets people coming in. We used to it used to be open year round. We had the buffalo and we sold buffalo meat out here also. So that, and we raised sweet corn, sold sweet corn, sold peaches, whatever else, just summer stuff too to keep people coming out to the farm and buying, and that sort of deal. So that's what worked out great for this. We just put a new cooler in this winter. I had a little sliding door one, I'll show you there, that kind of where we can store product after we process it, then people get it right out of the cooler there and go on instead of having to move it around a lot easier and stuff for us. So that's about where all is in this room, in this building, part of it. So we come back here where we do all the processing. This is kind of where all the final processing stuff comes in. We're kind of going backwards. We probably ought to come in on the other way around, but we'll do it this way. When the pecans, when they're cleaned, we bring them in these 1,000-pound plastic totes with a forklift, dump them in the hopper. From there, they go into a washer, which soaks them in water or whatever else, and any rocks, any dirt, anything else pretty well falls off of them. Then they go in the next bin, which is full of water and a chlorine solution, which is a sanitizer. So it takes, if there's anything on the outside of the shell, it'll sanitize it. And from there, they roll out onto tables, and each table will hold about 1,000 pounds. We let them dry, and sometimes that's anywhere from 24 hours to 48 hours for them to dry enough where we can go ahead and crack them. If we're running like our grafted pecans for each variety, we know where each variety is, they're kept separate. We can run them through the machines where they're set. Like these two machines here is doing one variety, the next two machines will do another variety. Then the end of the machine will do, just maybe one variety and stuff. So we can do about 5,000 pounds at a time is whenever we crack. If for some reason we're running an orchard run, we're mixed, we'll run them through a sizer, and that sorts them out per size of diameter, so the crackers can crack them a little better. Since you don't want to put a big nut for a cracker set for smaller ones, it'll tend to smash them. Or you put a small nut one that's set for a big one, and it won't hardly touch it and stuff, so they're there. From there, they vibrate down the trough. Normally have somebody sitting there will pick if there happens to be a bad pecan or a pecan that's not cracked, we pull those off. Then from there, they go in the hopper and through a blower system. From there, we take most of the shells out, the dust out, that sort of stuff. So we take, say, like 5 pounds of pecans, we'll take 2 pounds of trash out of it and put it in a 3-pound bag. There'll still be about a half a pound of shells and stuff, whatever. And that's mainly what we call our blown pecans. And that's really been a big seller for us now. People really like that because they're really easy. About all they have to do is just sort them. These air crackers really work nice about doing that because they just shatter the shell off the nut. So, they buy a 3-pound bag and they're getting 2.5 pounds of nut meats out of it, which really works out better compared to normally just 50% what you would. So we get rid of a lot of the trash for them that they don't have to mess with. These crackers are set up, they'll do right at 400 nuts per minute each. So it sounds like machine guns going off in there. Tat, 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 tat. It's noisy, pretty well. We all wear ear protection back here because it gets awful noisy with they run on air, the air compressors are running, all the other equipment's running and stuff, so it's pretty noisy back here, but it works out well, so can't complain. We got a big picture window here between the store and the office, or the store and the cracking area there, so people can see what we're doing, and how things work and stuff out there, so that's pretty well about what we do back here. I planted an awful lot of trees when I was young, but I had an old man out there making me plant pecans, and maybe you ought to do the same thing, is find an old man to make you plant them too.